SammyGyemfi awie eye Alexander Kwamena AfenyoMarkin ever propaganda on 1.7 billion losses. SammyGyemfi in accountability series a true challenge ama Alexander Kwamena AfenyoMarkin any NPP amanoku no say montreme anase mumfa IMF report na mum point enkyereme ene Ghana fo nyina baby a report no chere say gold board aboka 1.7 billion losses. Now there is nowhere in the IMF reporter chere say gold board aboka 1.7 billion losses. Now SammyGyemfi etwa nensem so no ode Auditor General report etodwa on gold board ya chere say gold board emboka bia na emeki any losses. In fact, SammyGyemfi asopa Alexander Kwamena AfenyoMarkin with facts and figures in this accountability series. Kameho na yenti the details from SammyGyemfi.
Whenever I say ma PENDREAM TV there, I say them yopo.
In the year 2025. This claim is a barefaced lie, which has been debunked time without number by the Gold Board. The audited annual reports and financial statements of the Gold Board for the year ended December 31st, 2025, prepared and published by the Auditor General of Ghana, discloses an operational surplus of 907 million Ghana cedis and an overall surplus of profit of 5.4 billion Ghana cedis. This is an incontrovertible fact. And today, to settle this matter once and for all, I brought to this auditorium a copy of the annual report and financial statements of the Gold Board, prepared and published by the Auditor General, not SammyGyemfi and the Gold Board. We don't audit ourselves. Now, if you check page 12 of this report, you will see that the Gold Board on its own, from its own operations, generated total revenue of close to 1 billion Ghana cedis and kept expenditure just around 109 million Ghana cedis. And so that is what we mean by operational profit or surplus of 907 million. It means that if you took all the revenue we generated as an organization and you deducted our expenditure from it, we had 907 million left. Now, because in the 2025 budget statement, government budgeted a revolving seed capital as its equity for the newly established Gold Board of 4.5 billion Ghana cedis, which monies hit our accounts on or about 30th of December 2025. Those funds had to be added to the revenue of the Gold Board because they were not encumbered, they were not depleted, they were not dissipated. And that is why the overall surplus is 5.4 billion. And this reporting was done by the Auditor General under what is known as IPSAS guidelines, and the chartered accountants and auditors understands this very well. So we brought 50 copies and we are going to distribute to you the audited financials of the Gold Board for 2025 as prepared and published by the Auditor General of Ghana, which puts to rest the false claim that the Gold Board has been making losses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, unsurprisingly, AfenyoMarkin and his followers have consciously chosen to disregard the Auditor General's confirmation that Gold Board did not record an operational loss. They now claim that the Auditor General did not have access to the full picture concerning the operations of the Gold Board. This position, ladies and gentlemen, betrays either a crass lack of understanding of how an external audit is conducted or a deliberate determination to undermine yet another independent state institution, independent constitutional body, when its findings do not suit their mischievous narratives. I invite you, the media, you who are the fourth estate of the realm, to check the veracity of this claim with the Auditor General, and you will come to the conclusion that officials of the Auditor General were given unhindered access to all relevant information in the conduct of their audit of the 2025 financials of the Ghana Gold Board. All documents requested by them were supplied, and all queries raised by them in their management letter were satisfactorily answered. This is why not a single, and I repeat, not a single adverse audit finding was made by the Auditor General in its 2025 audited report on the Gold Board, not on imaginary or hallucinatory losses, not on procurement breaches or breaches of the Public Financial Management Act. Not a single adverse finding was made against the Gold Board in the report of the Auditor General on our accounts for the year 2025. The media, I humbly submit, must not condone and entertain the deliberate propagation of lies in the face of glaring evidence to the contrary. Now, friends from the media, after adducing these indisputable findings of the Auditor General to puncture the lie that the Gold Board made losses in 2025, AfenyoMarkin and his associates quickly abandoned this line of attack and have now sought refuge in the recently published IMF report on the Bank of Ghana's on Ghana's extended credit facility, in which the IMF reported that the Bank of Ghana recorded a loss of $1.7 billion under its domestic gold purchase program in 2025. Their position has now conveniently changed from the old false narrative that the Gold Board made losses to the new false narrative, which is that the Gold Board is responsible for losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana under the domestic gold purchase program. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing could be further from the truth. First, nowhere in the under-referenced IMF reports is Gold Board accused by the IMF as having caused the losses reported to have been incurred by the Bank of Ghana under the domestic gold purchase program. I challenge AfenyoMarkin to point to any page, paragraph, sentence, phrase, or punctuation mark in the said reference reports of the IMF where the Gold Board was accused by the IMF as the entity responsible for losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, what the IMF report states is that Bank of Ghana incurred losses through the sale of gold under its domestic gold purchase program of $400 million in the year 2024 and $1.7 billion in the year 2025. And that the 2025 loss of $1.7 billion was as a result of, I'm quoting the IMF verbatim, the scaling up of the domestic gold purchase program, not incompetence or mismanagement. According to the IMF, that loss was as a result of the scaling up, the expansion of the program. The IMF also stated that these accounting losses partly reflect valuation effects. In particularizing what the IMF considers to be components of this loss, the IMF listed three things, which included fees paid to the Gold Board under the domestic gold purchase program. This is the true context within which the name of the Gold Board featured relative to losses under the DGPP in the reference IMF reports. So I want to read the relevant portions of that report, because most of the times they come in the media and they say the IMF has said that Gold Board has made a loss of $1.7 billion. And nobody questions them to point out which part of the IMF report said that. They say that the IMF says that gold board is the reason for the loss, and nobody questions them to provide the proof. And we are all talking about IMF report, IMF report. The fact checkers must get to work. What does this IMF report say? Now, let's first of all start with the seat review on the ECF, that report published by the IMF just a few weeks ago. And the provision in that report on domestic good purchase program can be found on page 27, paragraph 50. This is what the IMF said. The domestic good purchase program weighed on the financial sustainability of the BOG. The DGPP, which is the short form of domestic good purchase program, on which the BOG relied to accumulate reserves to intermediate effects to the private sector, has generated losses of 22 billion, which is 1.5% of GDP in 2025. A government cost-sharing agreement at end 2025 involving the transfer of bonds with a par value of 5 billion cedis in March 2026 resulted in the breach of the ceiling on BOG claims on the central government and public entities at the end of December 2025 and end March 2026. In July 2026, the BOG Gold Board and the government signed a memorandum of understanding formalizing the transfer of the domestic gold purchase program activities from the BOG to Gold Board and eliminating related BOG quasi-fiscal risk. An external auditing firm is conducting a special audit of the domestic gold purchase program from its inception, and the inception is 2021, whose results should be available in 2026 Q3. Domestic gold purchase program related losses coupled with high cost of open market operations and exchange rate valuation losses resulting from CD appreciation worsened the BOG's negative equity position to 6.7% of GDP. This is all they said about domestic gold purchase program. Nowhere in this report is Gold Board accused as having caused any loss incurred by Bank of Ghana. The second and last is the IMF report on selected issues, which was published on the 4th of August. Paragraph 13 of that report speaks about the domestic gold purchase program. And that is what it says. DGPP operations have generated significant losses for BOG. Losses in 2024. So if you are watching me, you should be asking yourself whether there was Gold Board in 2024. Losses in 2024 were equivalent to almost $400 million, 0.5% of GDP, 1/3 of which were related to gold for oil. In 2025, the significant scaling up of domestic gold purchase operations led to losses of over $1.7 billion. So the IMF tells you what led to the loss. So they are saying the significant scaling up of the program. It is there, black and white. Then, almost entirely related to G4R Dory purchases. This amounted to a loss of 17% of the value of Dory gold sold by the BOG. Losses accrued on gold trades are a combination of service. This was the only reference to the Gold Board here. So listen, losses accrued on gold trades are a combination of service and asset fees paid to Gold Board, discounts on gold sold to off-takers, and most importantly, exchange rate losses from the spread between Forex Bureau rates paid to purchase gold and the CD reference rate used for BOG accounting. Survey data suggests that Ghanaian ASGM prices are among the highest in the region. These accounting losses partly reflect valuation effects rather than economic cost. Blah, blah, blah. These are the relevant portions. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are the words of the IMF. Not to suggest that the words of the IMF are sacrosanct, but it is important for us not to attribute to the IMF what they have not said. They have not said that the Gold Board is the one that caused the Bank of Ghana to lose $1.7 billion, as I have clearly demonstrated to you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, aside the fact that the new false narrative of AfenyoMarkin grossly misrepresents the IMF's findings, I will demonstrate to you with facts and sound logical reasoning that fees paid to an agent by a principal based on a contract for agreed services cannot be reasonably said to be the reason for losses incurred by the principal. And that the IMF mischaracterized fees paid to the Gold Board as one of the components of losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana in 2025 under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program. I shall also demonstrate to you that the new false narrative of Afenyo and his followers that the Gold Board is to blame for losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program is bereft of fact and common sense. This fallacy is anchored on the claim that, number one, the Ghana Gold Board participated in the purchase and aggregation of gold for the Bank of Ghana under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program in 2025. Therefore, Ghana Gold Board is responsible for losses under the program. This is their logic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gold Board's role under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program in 2025 was simply a continuation of the inherited role of the defunct PMMC under the Gold Purchase Agreement with the Bank of Ghana, signed in September 2023, under which the PMMC served as a gold buying agent for the BOG. And today I brought a copy of that Gold Purchase Agreement that the PMMC signed with the Bank of Ghana in September 2023, when SammyGyemfi was National Communications Officer for the NDC in opposition. This buying agent role was limited to only the purchase of gold for the Bank of Ghana on agreed terms. The PMMC or Gold Board fulfilled this obligation in strict accordance with these obligations under the 2023 Gold Purchase Agreement and fully accounted for all advances it was given in 2025, a total of about 133 billion Ghana cedis. That was given to PMMC, later became Gold Board, to buy gold as a buying agent, fully accounted for 133 billion Ghana cedis. The PMMC Gold Board and Gold Board had no role in the sale of gold by the Bank of Ghana under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program. It was not a signatory to any offtake agreements under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program. Neither was it involved in determining selling prices or sale terms. In commodity trading, profit is simply a function of selling price minus cost. The IMF states that the reported losses stem from the sale of gold by the Bank of Ghana, not the sale of gold by the PMMC. If the PMMC, which later became Gold Board, had no role in the sale of gold it purchased, then it cannot be said to be responsible for losses incurred through the sale of gold by the BOG, simply because it bought gold as a buying agent and was paid fees. In any case, the under-referenced IMF report says that the BOG incurred a loss of $400 million from gold sales under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program in the year 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, there was no Gold Board in the year 2024. Who then caused that loss? Can AfenyoMarkin answer this simple question? If we are to accept his argument that losses under Domestic Gold Purchase Program are attributable to buying agents, then is AfenyoMarkin saying that buying agents in 2024 caused the loss of $400 million? And those buying agents were the PMMC and a private company called Resafire. So why are they not blaming PMMC and Resafire for causing $400 million loss to the Bank of Ghana? Also, in 2025, the Bank of Ghana used a private aggregator called Resafire to buy and aggregate gold under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program from January to May 2025. It's AfenyoMarkin saying that the private company is responsible for losses incurred by BOG under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program in 2025. Because Gold Board was not the only buying agent in 2025. The Gold Board Act was passed in April 2025. And we stopped private people from buying gold in June 2025. Before that, private aggregators appointed by the Bank of Ghana in the past were buying gold and aggregating gold for the BOG, just like PMMC. PMMC had no monopoly, and they were also paid fees. So is AfenyoMarkin saying that the $400 million loss and even the 2025 $1.7 billion loss was also caused by Sapphire? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the paucity of logic in Afenyo's new claim is gradually becoming clearer to you. But now let's move to their second point. They say that the Gold Board was paid fees by a buying agent, as a buying agent under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program in 2025. Hence, is responsible for reported losses under the program. And that a business model where an entity is paid fees for another entity to absorb losses stinks. My answer to this claim is very simple. This claim is ridiculous and betrays the lack of understanding of the fees in question. The fees in question are, number one, asset fees of 0.258% and a service fee of 0.5%. It is instructive to note right from the outset that the said Gold Board fee, which is alleged to be the cause of Bank of Ghana losses, constitutes less than 1% of the 17% loss the IMF reports the BOG incurred. Less than 1%. It must also be noted that the asset fee of 0.258% is not free money. As the name suggests, it is the standard fee charged by the PMMC, which later became Gold Board, as the national assayer for its assay services. The fee is approved by Parliament under the Fees and Charges Act to cover the cost of assay services rendered by the national assayer, PMMC, or if you like, Gold Board, and serves as IGF for the institution. All gold exporters, and I repeat, all gold exporters between 2022 and 2025, whether private or public, and for the public institutions, Bank of Ghana, Minerals Income Investment Fund, who were also implementing a gold for Forex program, all these people, private gold exporters, Indians, Chinese, Ghanaians, all of them, paid the same asset fee of 0.258% to the national assayer because it was approved by Parliament under the Fees and Charges Act. And assaying gold is not free. It costs us money, consumables, workers, machines to assay gold. And that is why we must be paid an assay fee. It is not free money. Let's understand that. The service fee of 0.5% paid the Gold Board in 2025 was also the same fee paid the PMMC and all other aggregators of the Bank of Ghana under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program from 2022 to 2025. This fee is also not free money. As the name suggests, the Bank of Ghana agreed to pay a service fee in the year 2023 to all its aggregators, PMMC and Sapphire, to cover the cost of transportation, security, insurance, and smelting losses incurred through the aggregation of gold from the 13 mining regions of Ghana for the Bank of Ghana by its buying agents. And I will give you incontrovertible evidence to that effect. This is their own agreement. They marked it confidential. I don't see why they should have marked this September 2023 gold purchase agreement as confidential. It's a matter of public interest. So I'll show you what that so-called service fee is all about and whether or not it is SammyGyemfi who has come to impose a service fee on Bank of Ghana, which has now caused the Bank of Ghana to incur losses. This is page 10 of that agreement, and if you need a copy, I'll give you a copy. And if you look at clause 6.3, sub clause 13. In fact, let me start from sub clause 12. Buyer, the buyer is Bank of Ghana and the agent is PMMC. Buyer shall bear the cost of assay, which shall be the prevailing rate of assaying Dory gold. The assay invoice shall be submitted to the buyer on the first week of every month for payment. 13. Buyer shall bear the buying agent service charge. The buying agent service charge, into bracket, operational cost of 0.5% of the utilized portion of advance funds for acting as buying agent or buyer, unless otherwise agreed in writing between the parties. The service charge or fee shall cater for logistics and transport cost, insurance, security, smelting loss, and trade margins. The service charge or fee shall be reviewed annually by both parties as market conditions changes. This is in the 2023 gold purchase agreement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if the gold board is to blame for losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana in 2025 because it was paid a legitimate fee for its services, who then caused the losses of the Bank of Ghana in 2022, 2023, and 2024 under the domestic gold purchase program? It means that all the people the Bank of Ghana paid fees to, the same fee, they caused the loss. That is what they are saying. Was it the PMMC or the Reservoir? AfenyoMarkin should answer this question too. Is he saying that losses incurred by MEF in their gold trade or any other private gold exporter is attributable to the PMMC or gold board because we charge and we're paid a lawful fee approved by Parliament for our assay fees? Then we should be charging Parliament rather for causing the loss because Parliament approved the fees. Ladies and gentlemen, are losses incurred by Cocoa Board blamed on its license buying companies because they are paid a margin of 12.75% on the producer price? This same buying agent arrangement between Bank of Ghana, Reservoir, PMMC, Gold Board is the same arrangement that governs how cocoa is purchased. And what is that arrangement? Cocoa Board gives seed money to license buying companies that go and buy cocoa. And when you bring the cocoa, I will pay you a margin of 12, not 0.5, 12.75%. So it means that every year when Cocoa Board declares losses, we should blame the losses on license buying companies because they will pay fees. That is a paucity of reasoning being canvassed by AfenyoMarkin and his followers. Is it right for an exporter or trader or business who incur, like media houses, you all have businesses, you have service providers, you have agents who you pay fees, your technicians, your plumbers. Your fee, the fee you pay is part of your cost, and you are therefore supposed to ensure that your revenue, or if you are trading a commodity, your selling price is enough to cater your cost. If you don't do that and you get a loss, you don't blame your plumber or your technician or your service providers who performed services and were paid fees for their services as a reason for your loss. Where in the world is one body corporate blamed for accounting losses incurred by another independent, separate and distinct body corporate without any evidentiary basis? Ladies and gentlemen, the IMF says that reported losses under the domestic gold purchase program in 2025 largely stem from the spread between Forest Bureau rate paid to purchase gold and the CD reference rate used for BOG's accounting. And that since Gold Board, NPP says, not the NPP, the AfenyoMarkin, says because Gold Board was the one buying the gold, then Gold Board should be blamed because of the gap between the Forest Bureau rate and the Bank of Ghana rate. The answer is very simple. The September 2023 gold purchase agreement that I've shown you, which predates SammyGyemfi and the Gold Board in this conversation, provides for the price and exchange rate at which gold is to be bought by PMMC and, for that matter, every buying agent. These are express prescriptions of the principle captured in a signed contract that predates the Gold Board. A buying agent cannot vary agreed terms in a written contract without consequences. AfenyoMarkin should tell Ghanaians at what price and exchange rate was gold bought by buying agents such as PMMC and RSFI, and I'm going to publish that tomorrow. They were buying gold at exchange rates as high as 17 Ghana cedis in 2024. So when you agents were buying gold at 17 Ghana cedis to the dollar, because you had so mismanaged the economy that at some point you needed 16, 17 cedis to get a dollar. And that is the exchange rate at which you were buying gold. You are saying that PMMC was causing losses for the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana designed under the domestic gold purchase program that because they were in crisis and they needed foreign exchange, they will buy gold at the exchange rate. That gold has been bought since we started mining gold over a century ago. This is not the creation of Gold Board, which was established in April 2025. Then the fourth claim under this new theory that, Gold Board has not made losses, but Gold Board is responsible for losses made by Bank of Ghana. They say that the reported domestic gold purchase program losses stems from Gold Board's trade model, and that the program was implemented through the Gold Board in 2025. So Gold Board is responsible. Ladies and gentlemen, although the Gold Board was established in April 2025, it was not until March 2026 that it commenced the implementation of its trade model envisaged under the Gold Board Act. This is because the Gold Board received its revolving seed capital budgeted for it in the 2025 budget as late as 30th December 2025. Also, the Gold Board had to put in place the necessary institutional measures and systems before takeoff. The trade model implemented by the Bank of Ghana in the year 2025, which the IMF has reported on, was evidently the domestic gold purchase program model. When did the domestic gold purchase program become Gold Board's trade model? And how can the domestic gold purchase program that the NPP in the past have given the credit, to Bawumia for, be said to be arising, losses under that program be said to be arising from a Gold Board model, when the Gold Board model only started in March 2026? Because of what I've already explained, our seed capital coming as late as 30th December 2025, and the need for us to put in place the necessary institutional, systems and framework before takeoff. Then they make another claim in their press statement that the reported domestic gold purchase program losses is partly caused by hidden offtake discounts determined by Gold Board. The answer is also very simple. As I've already explained, ladies and gentlemen, the PMMC or Gold Board was only a buying agent under the domestic gold purchase program. Its role ended at buying gold. It had no role in selling gold or signing offtake agreements. Therefore, it could not determine offtake discounts. It must, however, be noted that offtake discounts are a standard feature of gold doré trades. The BOG did extremely well in 2025 in reducing offtake discounts from as high as 2.2% in 2024 under the NPP to 1.2% in 2025. This fact can be verified by anyone from the BOG, and this discount, offtake discount, cannot by any stretch of imagination be the reason for reported losses, because discounts are a standard feature for particularly the sale of doré gold, raw gold, anywhere in the world. You sell gold, if you're selling gold in its raw form, and even in its refined form, there is a discount. And you don't see that losses are as a result of that, unless you can show that the discounts were unreasonably high and not in conformity with industry practice. Now, other false claims that I'll deal with quickly and then I'll conclude. The Gold Board, the AfenyoMarkin says that the Gold Board has sold gold and made losses, and that no one should sell gold and make losses. When the ton gold boka says those who recorded $400 million loss under domestic gold purchase program in 2024, according to the IMF they are quoting. And this is also coming from the same people under whose tenure another state institution, MEF, implemented a gold purchase program and recorded losses to the tune of over $90 million. Today they want to give us lectures on gold trading. Ladies and gentlemen, I have news for them. We will not take moral lessons from the brothel. Then number two, they say, why has the Bank of Ghana pulled out of financing the Gold Board if Gold Board is not making losses? Number one, the Bank of Ghana has not pulled out from anything. The NPP government decided that it will run a program called Domestic Gold Purchase Program, which will be managed by the Bank of Ghana. And they designed that program in a certain way, which I will talk about it. President Mahama promised to reset Ghana, including the gold trade sector. And his reset is the Gold Board. The act has been passed and the Gold Board is ready for takeoff. And so this new Gold Board model, as envisioned under the Gold Board Act, is not anchored on Bank of Ghana financing Gold Board. The Gold Board has been given the powers under Section 18 of the Gold Board Act by Parliament to raise money for itself from the financial markets. And so if the Gold Board wants to assert that statutory mandate, and for that matter, the Bank of Ghana has to end what it was doing under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program, you don't look at that and say, oh, that means Gold Board was doing something wrong. I can tell you that as we speak, the IMF and the Bank of Ghana are all engaging Gold Board that they still want to be our fiscal agents under the Gold Board model, where they will be raising money for us as an intermediary. It is the Gold Board that is rather saying, no, we will do it ourselves. So that claim is not true. And then you hear him say that, oh, Gold Board was being paid some fees, and it is because of the noise they made that the fees were reduced. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I brought evidence here, and if you need the evidence, I'll give it to you. That evidence is a letter dated October 29, 2025, way before the NPP ever held a press conference on Gold Board or Domestic Gold Purchase Program in 2025. Because the first press conference they held in the aftermath of the IMF report on Domestic Gold Purchase Program was in December. If you recall, we were celebrating Christmas at the time, December 2025. But by October 29, 2025, the Gold Board and Bank of Ghana, through negotiations, had reduced the fees to 0.6. Does that mean there was something wrong? No. What it meant was that the Gold Board was more efficient in aggregating gold, that it didn't need 0.75%. We conceded upon request by Bank of Ghana that we could do with little and still achieve better results. And number two, the quantity of gold we're buying had gone up and gold prices has skyrocketed, and therefore even if we reduce our fees, we knew that we could still cater for ourselves. So that was an act of patriotism and not because of the noise of a rabble-rouser. Now, number four, and I'm wrapping up. They say, oh, Gold Board takes credit for the upside of the Domestic Gold Purchase Program, but the Gold Board does not take the blame for the downside. So we are being double standard. The Gold Board has not taken any credit for any upside of any domestic gold purchase program. We are saying that President Mahama's vision in establishing the Gold Board, even though we did not begin the full implementation of that mandate in 2025, we were able to contribute substantially to the volume of gold that we aggregated as buying agent for the Bank of Ghana, in ways that the PMMC, our antecedent, could never do and never did. And that was because of the effective aggregation system, the competitive pricing, and the other measures we introduced in 2025. And so we talk about the quantum of gold we're able to buy because of how we were able to plug leakages, intensify the fight against smuggling, reduce gold that was going out through informal channels and all that. That is what we talk about. And so let them get the facts correct. Then they talk about what commercial risk was Gold Board bearing under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program. Ladies and gentlemen, is it easy to be giving 133 billion Ghana cedis in a year, cash, bank transfer money, to buy gold in the market and not burn 1 cedi of that? Can our former board chairman of ECG, AfenyoMarkin, under whose tenure in 2024 the ECG recorded a loss of 8.2 billion, boast of such competence? The answer, I believe, should be obvious. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is the Gold Board's official position on this issue of Domestic Gold Purchase Program losses? Because somebody may get the impression that because we are defending ourselves against a lie peddled against us, then it means that we are saying, oh, Bank of Ghana is to blame, or we are throwing Bank of Ghana under the bus. No, that is not the case. The position of the Gold Board has been stated by my good self, my humble self, time without number, that the losses recorded by the Bank of Ghana under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program since inception, not just in 2025, is not because of mismanagement or incompetence by the current managers, but those losses are a product of policy design. It was the NPP that designed the Domestic Gold Purchase Program that way, that they will not pursue profits, but they will pursue foreign exchange, because at the time they had no access to the capital market to borrow on the Eurobond market and bring in dollars to show up, the currency. So they chose foreign exchange over profit by policy design. And that is why since 2021 that program never made profit. And that is why they announced in the year 2022 November that effective January 2023 they were going to buy gold at spot prices. It was the NPP that introduced spot gold purchases in Ghana. And I dare anybody to challenge me. Because before 2023, gold was bought by private individuals, foreigners and locals, and they bought it between 1% discount to 2% discount. But in desperation for gold, the then government decided that we will buy gold at spot price. And that is contained in this report by Graphic Online, dated November 28, 2022, and attributed to the then Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, who announced the policy. Who buys gold at spot price and yet seeks profit? So that was their policy design. It was not for profit, and that is why they never made profit. But as they made losses in the past under the opaque gold for oil and all that, Ghanaians did not see any commensurate economic benefits. What we are saying is that in the case of the Bank of Ghana, yes, the loss may be bigger because according to the IMF, the program was scaled up, it was expanded. Not because somebody stole money or somebody was incompetent. But in this case, you see measurable, economic benefits. Unprecedented currency appreciation of 41%, which led to inflation coming down for 12 consecutive months. You saw a drop in the public debt by more than 100 billion Ghana cedis and significant savings to the government. That is what we are saying, that this was the price the Bank of Ghana had to pay under this program, poorly designed by the erstwhile government for the stability we enjoy. We are not saying that somebody at the Bank of Ghana has done anything wrong. So let's get that clear. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, there's been a call for a parliamentary probe, and I've already stated on public record that I'm waiting with bated breath for AfenyoMarkin's invitation. And I don't know why he's delaying and holding press conferences when, as minority leader, he can get the Public Accounts Committee to summon me tomorrow or today, and I will appear. I saw him dabbling in some confusion about standing orders of parliament and the fear that the majority may oppose a call for a probe into this matter. Well, I have, in all humility, reached out to the new majority leader in Parliament, Honorable James Agaga, and I pleaded with him that even if Afenyo delays in extending this invitation, he should extend the invitation to me. And I'm ready to come tomorrow. You don't need any special motion. You don't need any special order by the Speaker. Just get Public Accounts Committee to invite us. And come and sit down there and come and demonstrate to the whole nation where the Gold Board made losses or how the Gold Board is to blame for losses made by another institution. We are waiting for that. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to urge you, our friends in the media, in all humility, and the Ghanaian public, to hold AfenyoMarkin and others who make allegations about Gold Board losses to the strictest standard of proof, particularly in the light of the detailed facts I have placed before you today. Let me state that the persistent noise from people like him does not arise from any genuine quest for accountability or any sincere desire to interrogate the operations of the Gold Board. Rather, it is a part of a calculated smear campaign aimed at undermining the significant contribution Gold Board is making to the economic transformation agenda of President Mohammed's administration. The likes of AfenyoMarkin simply cannot reconcile themselves with the transformational work of Gold Board because they appreciate the important role it has played in the historic appreciation of the Ghana cedi and the significant strengthening of Ghana's international reserves, developments that are contributing to improved economic conditions for the Ghanaian people. AfenyoMarkin's continuing antics, and I want you to listen to me very carefully here. AfenyoMarkin's continuing antics must therefore be seen for what they are: a desperate smear campaign by persons who have specialized in sophistry and political blackmail in pursuit of selfish ends. These are devious extortionists who will come at you with lies to tarnish your reputation in the hope that you will fold and settle for what they call, quote, compulsory arbitration, and oil their palms. Well, this time around, they found their own target. The Ghanaian people deserve serious public discourse founded on facts, evidence, truth, and not endless recycling of falsehoods in the hope that repetition will lend them credibility and turn fiction to facts. Gold Board will remain focused on its mandate. We will continue to account transparently for our stewardship, and we will not be distracted from the important work of creating value for the Ghanaian people from the exploitation of the good resources of our beloved nation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Eni a wote ye SammyGyemfi nensema wato amane Alexander Kwame na AfenyoMarkin. Say ono SammyGyemfi is ready. Say obeba parliament and I say appear before PAC, Public Account Committee, to present a document any offensive information to defend Gold Board. Say Gold Board emboka 1.7 billion losses. Now say AfenyoMarkin dealer the new majority leader James Agalga Emma invitation no na obe appear before parliament na wayi ensemano. Ya the ensem no beson ha. Subscribe to the channel, bell notification no. Na share ba afofro ensa enkebi comment section ho. Constructively now the adventure aba.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.